Many would consider my setup here the gold standard in the UK, an 8.8 kilowatt inverter, 20 kilowatt hours of battery storage. And whilst I'm very happy, we always want more, don't we? I installed that extra 3 kilowatts of potential energy harvesting on my shed roof, but I haven't been able to connect it to my inverter because this inverter is sadly maxed out. I don't have the MPPTs. I have no way to efficiently connect that shed roof to my existing inverter. So a plan was hatched to add a second inverter. Now that may mean sacrificing some of my shelving space and my motorbike gear here. So let me bring you up to speed. This is the Sunsynk 8.8 kilowatt inverter. It can be used in a master and a slave configuration with more Sunsynk inverters. And the plan is to add a 3.68 kilowatt Sunsynk inverter on the wall here somewhere, to hook it up with this one and to run them in parallel, the two inverters. Now that's fairly simple and straightforward, but that also opens the opportunities for something else. Now a little look on my Octopus app shows me that we ran out of battery storage on 7 days during the winter period due to my air source heat pump consuming quite a lot of energy on those very, very cold days. So adding a second inverter not only gives me 2 MPPTs, 2 different strings that I can input into it, but I can also connect more battery storage. So the second inverter will not only be connected to my shed roof, but it leaves the door wide open for the vertically mounted, wall mounted solar panels that I've talked about on the gable end of the property as well. Well, the next 10 kilowatt hours of battery storage are here, and I hope it doesn't go as badly as the last lot did. You know me, I'm always looking for the best bang for buck. I'm looking to get the most kilowatt hours for my pounds. Included in the box, we've got a couple of cables, we've got an earth strap, we've got a communication cable, terminal fixings, coverings, brackets, handles. Let's show you what's inside. So this is the Eco-Worthy 5.12 kilowatt hour rack mounted battery. It's a standard 19-inch rack mount, but crucially for me, these can also be wall mounted. You can tip them up on their end, and then they sit very slim against the wall. At 145 millimeters tall, that will then translate into 145 millimeters of deep once we wall mount these. Now yes, some of you may be confused that on the front of these they say 51.2 volts nominal. That means that they do still work perfectly in conjunction with any low voltage 48 volt solar inverter or hybrid inverter. Now why do I think these are particularly good value? Well, this is the V3, it's the version 3. They've gone through a lot of revisions to make it safer and to make it more reliable. And a pair of these with their 0.5C charge and discharge rate are perfectly matched for a Sunsynk 3.68 kilowatt inverter. Having parallel terminals makes it really easy to expand, and either stack these up in a rack mount or mount them across your wall if that is your preferred option. 125 amp breaker built into the battery, and you can see it's now performing its self-diagnostics and its self-check. Shipped with around about 30% capacity, which is very common for these LFP batteries. LFP, if you're not aware, is the safest battery chemistry. Some of the older batteries, like some of the older Tesla Powerwalls, were NMC chemistry. Those are the type of batteries that can pose hazards in terms of fire risk and other things. These LFP ones, safe as houses. You can see we have loads of communication options, and Eco-Worthy test and certify this to work with a wide variety of inverters, not just Sunsynk inverters. These batteries come with Wi-Fi and Bluetooth connectivity, so I'm going to go ahead and download the app. I'll give you a little preview what that looks like and what you can actually do with it. The app is available in the Google Play Store. It's called JBD BMS. Whilst that's downloading and installing, let me just remind you, I've put out a video before about the competitive price of these units, and especially once you start buying them as part of a multi-battery deal, you get some quite significant discounts. I'm going to speak to Eco-Worthy and see if I can get you, the viewers, a discount code. And of course, people who have done teardowns on these, like Will Prowse, for example, they've been extremely impressed by the construction, how the cells are mounted, things like the bus bars, the internal wiring, and a lot of the revisions that they've made to the BMS and the other controls. These seem to get 5-star ratings from people in the know, which is impressive when you consider the price of these. Pound for pound, these are less than half the price of the equivalent Sunsynk branded batteries. Okay, so we're going to click on the Bluetooth logo. All right, it's picked it up straight away. Let's press connect. We're connected into the BMS of the battery now. It shows us the current voltage. It shows us we're at 31% state of charge. In the top left hand corner, we're not connected to the Wi-Fi, I'm just connecting over Bluetooth at the moment. Shows us cell voltage, maximum and minimum, displays the temperature. Okay, so this is on the summary page. What other details? If I click into pack data, okay, 100 amp hour capacity. There we go. So then we can see the various voltages of the individual cells, and of course, because this has just been shipped, it will be a good idea to charge this fully up to 100% and give it some time to top balance the cells and to even out those cell voltages, and then probably discharge it very low and repeat and try and bring that back up to 100% again. And so over a week's worth of usage, you'll probably see that those cell voltages start to stabilize between them. And we can see that pack cell temperature, they're extremely consistent. Basic info, volt and temperature, system info. So here is where we can set which inverter. There are dip switches on the front of the battery itself, but perhaps we can just set the protocol in there. So in our case, we would probably want the DAE one, because DAE is the manufacturer behind our Sunsynk unit, but we'll do a little bit of research on that before we set anything up. And just gives us device info. Is it financially worth it for me to actually add these batteries and add the secondary Sunsynk inverter? Really, that's not going to pay for itself very well. There's definitely a case of diminishing returns here. But if you are trying to eke out every last watt of sunshine power, then perhaps it's a long-term view that you're going to take on this, and maybe a move towards independence from the grid in some way. Now, these have got to be the best DIY battery option because they are manageable. Now, as we found out with those big beastie things that are over 100 kilograms each, even with two people, they are quite unwieldy and not very well balanced. Whereas I haven't screwed on the handles just yet, but once I screw on the rack mounted handles and once we screw on the wall mounted brackets, then this should be no problem at all. So I won't pretend that these are light, but at 45 kilos, they are manageable. So one person, DIY, you can do that. You can't do that with these units that are well over 100 kilograms or something like the Fogstar batteries. And you know why I didn't go for those. They're just not slim enough. For me, that's a critical factor. I can mount these back on the wall, and these will actually be slimmer than the Sunsynk inverter. It'll be slimmer than my existing batteries. You won't see any protrusion. Hopefully this gives a little demonstration and an idea of the size difference. This one is slimmer and of course smaller in the other dimensions, but crucially it's much more manageable to try and handle this and to be able to get that connected up and safely mounted. So perhaps for the people who aren't quite so nerdy, I skipped over the 0.5 C rate earlier. It essentially means that two of these batteries could charge at 5 kilowatts or discharge at 5 kilowatt. If I had just one of these batteries, then I'd be able to charge at 2.5 kilowatts or discharge at 2.5 kilowatts. So I can essentially run the inverter flat out. And at the moment, I've got 3 kilowatts of solar on the shed. So these batteries could soak up all of that energy from the shed roof to use at dinner time when we're cooking, for example. What questions do you have about extending home battery storage? Now, one of the other questions that I asked myself, why didn't I just buy the 6-pack of these to begin with? They're heavily discounted, and a 6-pack of these would give me the same capacity as what I've got with those two, and 2 of these in these 2 boxes here. Now, things like these parallel cables and these double terminals, parallel terminals, make this so much easier to expand. Batteries like that, they have no parallel terminals. You need to have an external junction box for those. This is just much more DIY friendly from the weight and the connectivity. And even the manual, you can tell that it is much more focused at enthusiasts or DIYers than it is experienced professionals, let's just put it at that. It has all of the nerdy detail that you want, from configuration and dip switches and all of those sorts of details, but it walks you through in a very easy to understand way. So if you are new to this or don't have a full understanding, then these Eco-Worthy batteries would be a good shout. We should mention a little something about safety before we wrap up. This is a full metal shell. The way that the cells are fixed inside is anti-swelling. Over time and through a lot of overcharging and discharge cycles, battery cells tend to want to swell, and the way that they are mounted and kind of packed together prevents them swelling, and this is a solid, robust steel case. So what's the conclusion here? Now, with my existing system and 2 of these, we're up to over 30 kilowatt hours of battery storage. That's not even factoring in the EcoFlow Stream Ultra X. That's approximately 3.8 kilowatt hours of storage as well. Do you think that that is more than enough? Now over 34 kilowatt hours of battery storage. I certainly won't have to pull from the grid at any peak times, that is for sure. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Make sure you subscribe for all my future updates and antics, and like the video if you've watched it this far. Thank you very much.